2021 was quite the year for Taylor Sheridan, arguably bigger than 2018, which was when his brainchild, Yellowstone, broke Paramount's syndication records. How do you beat creating an epic western no one's ever seen before? Easy. You ride that high and you create a bunch more. That's right. In 2021, while we were a few seasons into Yellowstone, Sheridan signed a multi-project deal with Paramount. All the spin-offs you're choosing from today, they were all greenlit back in 2021. Paramount saw an opportunity and they wanted to cash in. Of those many spin-offs, we have 6666, better known as The Four Sixes, aka named after the famous Texas ranch. Oh, and a little known fact, Sheridan actually owns the real-life ranch too. This video is going to be all about The Four Sixes, from the teaser to the stellar cast, storyline, and more fun facts from Sheridanverse. Let's get started. Jimmy's coming back in the finale. Dick Herdstrom approached John Dutton with an offer he could refuse, hiring his drug-dealing grandson, Jimmy Herdstrom. When we first saw Jimmy in the series, he owed Ray over $8,000. How? He didn't know how he incurred that debt either, but he knew that Ray was coming to collect. Dirk was worried for him and called in an old favor. John might have been apprehensive when he first saw Jimmy, but he gave Dirk his word. This was happening whether either of them liked it or not. And to be clear, Jimmy did not like it one bit. Rip Wheeler gave him an ultimatum. It was either working at the ranch or working for scrap metal in prison. The choice became a lot clearer when presented in that way. Still, Jimmy found it hard on the ranch, especially as the new kid. Rip's protection helped him, and Jimmy soon grew on John too. In more ways than some, John came to see Jimmy as a son. Ironic, considering he had Casey and Jamie, right? In any case, Jimmy learned the ropes and discovered his innate talent, bareback bronco riding. This led him to Mia, who encouraged him to pursue rodeo, something John was okay with initially. It wasn't until Jimmy hurt himself badly enough that John gave him another ultimatum. It was either staying at the Yellowstone Ranch or disobeying him and going back for another rodeo. The fact that he's been slated to lead a new spin-off should give you a pretty good clue about what he chose. Anyway, John sent him to live on the Four Sixes Ranch to learn the ins and outs of being a cowboy. Oh, and Mia left him soon after he found himself in the hospital and realized John was right all along. All for the better, though. The last anyone heard from Jimmy, he was engaged to Emily. Speaking of which, when will we hear more from him? Well, sooner than you might have thought. Jefferson White uploaded an image of himself standing in front of the Four Sixes Ranch on Instagram. The caption said, "We're coming back." In 3 different posts, White said, "It's a wild ride. New episodes of At Yellowstone start November 10th. Can't wait for you to see them. I finally got chaps with pockets so I could carry a camera on horseback. New episodes of At Yellowstone starting 11/10. And Texas in August. New episodes of At Yellowstone starting 11/10. Last we saw of Jimmy, John had told him it was either to live by his rules or pursue his dream of being a bareback bronco cowboy. When Jimmy didn't listen, John sent him to the Four Sixes Ranch in Texas to have him learn the ins and outs of becoming a real cowboy. That was when the naive Jimmy learned that it wasn't the illustrious lifestyle he'd thought it was. Resentful in the beginning, sure, but Jimmy soon came to appreciate the hard work. When it was time to come back to Montana, Jimmy asked John if he could stay in Texas a little while longer. Yep, John complied, clearing his debts at Yellowstone and letting him live out his cowboy dreams. We then got to see more of the Four Sixes Ranch, or at least hear about it when Rip and the ranch hands announced they'd be moving the cattle to Texas during the winter months. That was where Rip's story in the first part of Season 5 left off, and that's probably where it'll pick up when the finale is released. So for anyone who was wondering, yes, Jimmy will be a part of the finale, but that doesn't really confirm if he'll be a part of a larger series, one where he's the lead character. The real-life Four Sixes Ranch. Larger than the city of San Antonio and twice the size of Chicago, the Four Sixes Ranch is only the 9th largest ranch in all of Texas. It was founded in 1900 as Ranch 8 by Sam Burke Burnett, but quickly renamed the Four Sixes. That's because Burnett's herd had the distinction of being branded the somewhat peculiar number. The ranch area quickly grew to over 290,000 square feet, and the herd grew larger and larger. The Four Sixes stayed in the Burnett family for several decades until it was put up for sale in 2020. That was when Burnett's great-granddaughter, Ann Milford, passed away. She'd instructed in her will that the ranch be put up for a whopping $350 million. Who has that kind of money, right? Well, either a multi-billion-dollar corporation that would turn the luscious greenery in murky steel gray, or a multi-billion-dollar series creator who has a a couple of great hits under his belt, and a penchant for great ranches across the United States. That's right, Sheridan closed the deal on the Four Sixes Ranch in 2022 after keeping his plans under wraps for almost 2 years. According to the series creator, he didn't want to jinx it. Fair enough. Sheridan also promised to preserve the ranch's integrity, keeping it in pristine condition and doing the Burnett family proud. Ironically, he played a real John Dutton here, saving the ranch from a corporation that would have plummeted it to the ground. In any case, the one thing that did change at the Texas Ranch was its set potential. That is, now the Four Sixes doubled as a set for Sheridan's series. Yes, it serves as the backdrop for the new spin-off series of the same name. That much ought to be a given. But did you know that a few seasons of Yellowstone were also filmed here? Yep, back in Season 4 and parts of Season 5, particularly Jimmy's parts, were filmed in Texas. The Lone Star State is one of 3 set locations for Yellowstone. The other 2 would be Utah and Montana, of course. Announcement of the modern-day spin-off was made around the same time Taylor closed the deal on the Four Sixes Ranch. Here's what Paramount had to say about the spin-off. The Four Sixes is synonymous with the merciless endeavor to raise the finest horses and livestock in the world, and ultimately, where world-class cowboys are born and made. At the time, it was reported that Jefferson White, Jimmy from Yellowstone, had already relocated to Texas to shoot parts of the new show. However, with the writer's strikes, Yellowstone delays, and Kevin Costner's impromptu exit from the parent series, the future of Four Sixes was brought into question. White's still in Texas, for anyone who's wondering, and he will be a part of the Yellowstone finale. To really sweeten the deal, he'll also be filming from the Four Sixes Ranch. Still, that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be filming for the spin-off. For all we know, the Madison might be released before Four Sixes even gets off the ground. The pivot from Four Sixes to the Madison. The Madison comes off the heels of 2 previous spin-off shows, 1883 and 1923, while other spin-offs that have been greenlit include the limited series Lawmen Bass Reeves, Four Sixes, and 1944. Yet you'd be surprised to know that the Madison would be hitting Paramount before Four Sixes, before we even have a trailer for it too. There's still time, actually, and there's a high chance that the ending of Yellowstone doubles as a trailer for Four Sixes. But first, let's talk a little about the Madison, and why Sheridan and Paramount decided to pivot toward a brand new show instead of working on a project they'd already announced. We have to go back a bit for this. So, in 2022, Kevin Costner announced he was leaving the Yellowstone sets for good. This was before they'd filmed the finale or had even planned on Part 2 being the finale. His impromptu exit was due to several reasons. Some say creative disputes, some suggest pay disparities, and others claim he wanted out to focus on Horizon. In any case, Sheridan had already announced Four Sixes in 2021 as part of a multi-million-dollar contract with Paramount to create more spin-offs. That's the first reason why Four Sixes was delayed. Sheridan was back at the drawing board trying to make sense of John Dutton's exit from the series, all the while finding a way to wrap things up perfectly in his epic western. For those of you who don't know, Sheridan had initially planned on Yellowstone being a limited series, not more than 10 episodes. It was only after the show's success that he decided to go forward with more seasons. The actual finale was planned as Season 7, and even then, Kevin Costner would have had to star in it in some capacity. Four Sixes was a highly anticipated project, yes, and everyone loved Jimmy, also yes, but the bigger issue was Yellowstone, aka the parent series. Sheridan had to wrap that up before he could move on to other projects. But just as he was gathering writers to come up with an epic finale for an epic western, the SAG strikes happened. To jog everyone's memory a bit, Hollywood was put on a long pause when writers protested against the meager salaries they were being offered for multi-million-dollar projects. Many people supported the strikes. Sheridan probably did too, but big budget production houses tried to fight it. This prolonged the strikes for a long time and effectively shut down production of several series, films, and anything that would have required a writer. So basically everything. Yellowstone doesn't really follow a fixed schedule for release, but fans have been typically rewarded with one season every year. This time, they had to wait twice as long for a finale they didn't even see coming. Meanwhile, Sheridan came up with the perfect script and tried to find neutral ground with production houses and writers. Once everything was settled and it was time to focus on projects again, Sheridan and Paramount obviously prioritized Yellowstone over other series. In this case, they placed the spin-offs that were entering Season 2 much higher on the list than the ones that hadn't even kicked off yet, aka Four Sixes. But wait, that should have also included the Madison, right? Well, we have to circle back to 2022 again for this. When Kevin Costner announced his exit from the parent series, the fan fandom was left scrambling. No one knew which route Sheridan was about to take. He could either use shitty AI tricks to generate another John Dutton, write him off completely from the show he's leading in, or have someone come in and replace him. To be clear, not to replace John Dutton himself, but to replace the lead role in the series. The last option seemed the most plausible, and the fandom started coming up with theories on who'd be the best fit. One name spoke to everyone, and you'd agree too: Matthew McConaughey. Reddit threads were filled with people urging Sheridan to cast McConaughey in some capacity on the show. The hype led to Paramount taking notice, and eventually reports came out that the actor was actually talking about starring in a Sheridan production. Yeah, eventually everyone agreed that introducing a new character later on in the series as lead would have derailed the plot completely. But fans were happy to know that Sheridan was giving Matthew his own show. That show wasn't The Madison, by the way. No, back in 2023 when the spin-off series was announced, it was titled 2024. And now for the conundrum. 2024, as the title suggests, was supposed to be a continuation of Yellowstone in the present day. Something that sets it apart from most of the other spin-offs. All but one, 4 Sixes. Basically, both spin-offs would follow the same timeline and would have to be interconnected with Yellowstone and then with one another in some way, shape, or form. On one hand, Sheridan had 4 Sixes for which he'd already made the announcement, had the set ready, and even working characters that the fandom loved. On the other hand, he had Matthew McConaughey. What did he choose? Basically, neither. The mess behind The Madison. As you can probably tell, 2024 had to be retitled, but no, it wasn't retitled to The Madison. In fact, the deal with McConaughey never went through. That's right. Shortly after announcing that the actor would star in a Sheridan production, Paramount quietly released details on The Madison, which didn't include McConaughey. So what happened? Here's what we know. The actor really wanted to be a part of Sheridanverse, and he was willing to negotiate a lower salary just to get the role. The only thing he asked for was a finished script. This is where the problem with 4 Sixes comes up too. Sheridan was so preoccupied with Yellowstone and giving it the farewell that it deserved that he completely forgot about other projects. This meant 4 Sixes, but this also meant 2024. McConaughey waited it out for a minute. He understood Sheridan and Paramount's predicament, but it was honing in on 1 year and he still hadn't received the script. In the end, the actor bowed out of the project and went to work on other more readily available ones. So 2024 was shelved. Yes, you heard that right. The Madison is not a rebranded version of 2024. The only thing similar between the two spin-offs is that they were set in the same timeline. With Yellowstone concluding in November 2024, a new sequel titled The Madison will follow a modern-day storyline unlike previous prequels set in the past. According to the press release, The Madison centers on a New York family relocating to Montana's Madison River Valley, exploring themes of grief and human connection. It's uncertain if The Madison will feature characters from Yellowstone, though appearances are possible since earlier spin-offs primarily focused on the Dutton family. The original series, starring Kevin Costner as John and Kelly Riley as Beth, follows the Duttons' struggle to protect their massive Montana ranch from conflicts with neighboring entities, including the Broken Rock Reservation, Yellowstone National Park, and developers. Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone, has already explored the Duttons' backstory through 2 prequels, 1923 and 1883. This series depicted earlier generations of the family before John and Beth's time. Initially announced as a continuation of the Yellowstone saga, The Madison was expected to carry the Dutton story forward while introducing new characters. However, it's now unclear if the show will focus solely on new storylines. Michelle Pfeiffer was announced as the lead in August 2024, also serving as a producer. Chris McCarthy, Paramount Global's co-CEO, praised Pfeiffer, calling her the perfect anchor for this next chapter of the Yellowstone universe. The cast also includes Patrick J. Adams, Elle Chapman, Beau Garrett, and Amaya Miller. Adams and Chapman play Russell and Paige McIntosh, a wealthy New York couple. Garrett portrays Abigail Reese, a newly divorced mother, while Miller plays her older daughter Bridget. Previous Yellowstone stars, including Cole Hauser, Kelly Riley, and Luke Grimes, were in talks to return as of May 2024, but no official confirmation has been made. McConaughey was rumored to join a Yellowstone spin-off in early 2023 amid reports of Kevin Costner's potential departure. Although Paramount Network expressed interest in collaborating with McConaughey, no updates have followed. While it's unclear where The Madison will stream, all 5 seasons of Yellowstone are available on Peacock, with prequels 1923 and 1883 streaming on Paramount+. Will there be a season 6? Right now, Paramount's been hush-hush about 4 Sixes. Maybe not to build intrigue, but because they don't have anything to announce just yet. On the other hand, we know that the studio has been keeping a major secret secret from fans, and yes, it involves Yellowstone. So far, we've talked about the finale of the parent series and how Sheridan had to bunch up the entire storyline into 6 episodes because of Kevin Costner's exit, right? Well, what if we told you that part 2 might not be the finale after all? To pick things up from where we left off, Jamie is out for vengeance, and he'll stop at nothing to get back at John. This meant impeaching him and taking over the Yellowstone Ranch, obviously. The only thing standing in his way, well, arguably the strongest Dutton of them all. And no, it's not John. Beth has waged war against Jamie, and she'll stop at nothing to destroy him. Ironically, neither will Jamie. One of them is making it out alive, and the other isn't. Could it be Beth? We have a strong suspicion it could be, and it's not because the finale has been leaked anywhere. No, it's because Kelly Reilly has been in talks with Paramount for a possible season 6. That's right, Beth Dutton is coming back, and she's bringing Casey Dutton and Rip Wheeler with her. We still haven't heard back from Jamie Dutton, and maybe that's what the plot of the finale revolves around. In any case, Kelly has been in talks with Paramount to develop a possible 6th season, which would be the real finale. The trailer for part 2 showed Beth and Rip as the central characters. It was basically John Dutton's epilogue interspread with Beth and Rip having a conversation with one another. Beth's tired, and Rip wants her to keep fighting. He's telling her they have to finish what they started, and there's no shortcut, unfortunately. This sets the stage for the finale, but we know that Sheridan has a lot more planned. Well, based on the fandom's reception, Paramount has decided to greenlit a 6th season starring Beth and Rip. Are they everyone's favorite characters? Arguably, yes. Rip and Beth, as volatile as they may be, bring a layer to Yellowstone we didn't know it needed. The two characters fall in love amidst all the rubble and stick through one another no matter what comes their way. It's as Western of a love story as it gets, and fans can't have enough of them, which is what Paramount's cashing in on. You see, Sheridan's been a godsend for the studio. Everything he touches turns to gold, and the studio loves cashing in those big bucks. This means that when Sheridan pitches an idea, Paramount greenlights it without a second thought. There's been quite a few rumors floating around that he teased the idea of season 6 for a while, and Paramount said, go for it. But there is a problem though, payments. According to unofficial reports, Kelly Reilly, Cole Hauser, and Luke Grimes have all asked for higher salaries this time around. Their contracts end with part 2, and seeing how they're central figures for the real finale, they want a pay raise that reflects it. The fact of the matter is that Paramount does have some money that's opened up with Kevin Costner's exit, aka his $1 million an episode exit. Still, they're hoping the actors can settle for less than asking. A lot less. To put this into context, Kelly reportedly earned around $500,000 per episode of the show. Obviously, her salary went higher as the show progressed, but ultimately capped at $500,000. For season 6, she's asking for $1.5 million per episode, and Paramount just doesn't have it in their budget to accommodate the rise. Not just hers, by the way. Cole's also asking for over $1 million, and Luke wants close to $1 million too. It always comes down to salaries, doesn't it? There was some discourse on how negotiations had broken down, and Sheridan was forced to accept part 2 as the actual finale. But Hollywood's nothing if not volatile, and the latest reports suggest that the main ensemble cast has agreed to a lower salary. Still a bump though. In any case, this means that season 6 will go according to plan. Wait, we have to be realistic here. 4 6s was meant to go according to plan too. So was 2024. Can we really trust that season 6 will happen? We'll have to wait and find out. The best finale yet. Yellowstone's one of the best television series on air right now, and there are no two ways about it. That being said, it adds a whole lot of pressure on Sheridan and Paramount to give the best Western the best finale that it so rightfully deserves. Can they do that? Well, according to Cole Hauser, they've done just that. In an interview, Cole claimed that he and the rest of the cast got to read the finished script when part 2 started filming. He claimed that the series finale revolves heavily around the main cast, no unnecessary side quests, and settles the ultimate question of who gets the Yellowstone Ranch. Cole was sure to hype up the finale and Rip's role, claiming that most of the bloodshed fans are about to witness comes from his character. This is probably true considering how in the trailer, John Dutton was seen having a conversation with Rip, detailing how they had to do everything they could to protect the ranch. You know Rip, he's nothing if not loyal. That also explains why he told Beth that even if she's tired of all the fighting, she has no real option other than to suck it up and deal with it. They have a score to settle, and they can't rest until that's done. All this begs the question, how does Jimmy fit into the finale? We know that he'll be a part of it, that much is for sure. Still, Hell, will his role set up his own spin-off series? In a way, you can argue that Sheridan owes it to Jimmy to give him a proper send-off. He took a fan-favorite character, threw him a couple of states over to Texas, gave him a brilliant backstory, and even a fiancé to go with everything. Why give a side character so much depth and screen time if you weren't going to give them their own show? And now that the Madison has been confirmed as a spin-off separate from the parent series entirely, it makes a whole lot more sense for 4/6s to go through. Still, we don't really know if Season 6 is going ahead or not. There's some discourse online that suggests that if Season 6 does go through, then Sheridan will find a way to interlink that with Jimmy's storyline. This would give fans the closure they needed on both Yellowstone and 4/6s. But is that really enough? Let us know what you think in the comments. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and while you're here, check out some of our other videos. We'll see you back here soon with more details on Yellowstone and Sheridanverse.